So, Senator Paul, what effect has the Tea Party had on this debate?
Well, the interesting thing is I keep hearing Harry Reid talk about the Tea Party. I don't think he's ever been to a Tea Party, nor does he know much about the Tea Party.
Have you invited him to any of your meetings?
He's welcome anytime, but what I keep saying is, look, the only people up here talking about a government shutdown are the Democrats. I think they want a government shutdown so they can have a cheap political victory. Here I am, the founder of the Tea Party caucus, one of the founders, and I have a bill today. If we get nowhere and the Democrats don't produce anything, I have a bill today that I will introduce that's the Government Shutdown Prevention Act of 2011. We don't want to shut down the government. We fund it at a reduced level in order to keep it open.
Let's talk a little bit more about that. So I'm going to read this to our viewers. This is part of the proposal that ensures that essential government services continue to function in the absence of the passage of a spending bill and incentivizes Congress to act. That is part of your Government Shutdown Prevention Act. But I thought the Tea Party was about less government, not more. Why introduce new legislation to deal with this?
Well, the interesting thing is our act will be less government. We pay the workers 75% of what they're getting. We pay the congressional staff 50%, and we pay the congressmen 0. That way they have an incentive to come back with a permanent agreement. We do not provide back pay. But we also don't dramatically shut down government in one day. I think it's not very good government up here. The Democrats didn't have any appropriations bills last year, no budget, and they're looking at shutting down the government. Why does it always have to be either or? Why can't we just fund government at a reduced level, but let it continue to function so we don't have such a disruption of what goes on?
Well, some people answer that question of why does it have to be either or. It is because we actually have a two-party system, and it's either or because there's two sides. Now, people voted in the Tea Party. We've heard from many viewers that it was for a change of a government that is broken. So how right now can the Tea Party help influence government to get an agreement here and keep the government up and functioning?
Well, the thing is there's all kinds of ways we could have an agreement. For example, I would probably vote for their continuing resolution if we voted on a balanced budget amendment first, and if we had a plan to balance the budget. That's what the Tea Party wants. They would probably accept me voting for one continuing resolution if we had a 5-year plan to balance the budget and or a balanced budget amendment. But short of that, the Tea Party tells me that cutting 1% of our spending, 50, 60 billion is about 1 to 2% of our spending. It does nothing to correct the problem we have coming. But at the same time, we don't want to shut down government. Let's just run it at a reduced level until we come to a compromise.
Real quick here, as you mentioned, this is less than 1% when it comes to funding the government. Another big question from our viewers, though, is if we can't get an agreement here, if the government shuts down, how are we to trust people like yourself to handle bigger issues such as the debt ceiling, such as our budget for next year, decisions about war? How can we trust the government at this point?
Well, the thing is they can trust me because I'm not going to vote to raise the debt ceiling either unless we get something significant. A balanced budget amendment, a 5-year plan to balance the budget, which we've proposed both of these from our office. Either one of these would allow me to then say, well, yes, we'll compromise with the other side. But cutting 1 or 2% doesn't fix the problem, and I think still leads us on towards a debt crisis. And my biggest fear is that we're going to have a debt crisis in this country in the next few years if we don't do something very soon.
We'll see what happens in the next 12 hours as that clock continues to tick-tock down to that deadline. Senator Paul, great to have you today. We look forward to talking to you again.
Well, as we deal with budget and political problems in this country, it's easy to forget how bad it still is.